Hello, class. The good news is in this series of videos, it's going to be our last assignment in AutoCAD for this class. And for this assignment, there's a bunch of things that we're just finishing up, a lot of detail work that typically comes later in a project. The first being dimensions. So you can see I've pulled up this. It's just a first floor plan like we did before, but it's got some extra notes and it's got some extra dimensions on them. We're going to focus on dimensions in this video. We're also going to be talking about kitchen and bath through this assignment. I won't get into the details in this video, but I want to focus on dimensions. And really, it's easy. We've already done dimensions in the video, so you can go and for the first floor essentially just copy the dimensions as you've seen. Listen to this video. There's a couple tips and tricks that you really need to listen to make sure you get it accurate. And also, you're going to have to put dimensions on the second floor. We are not providing the dimensions for the second floor. You have to take all the knowledge that you have and apply the same concepts to the second floor. So that's why you might want to watch the next few minutes just to see what those concepts of the dimensions are. So I'm going to sort of pull this over. But for the first floor to get you going, it's really just copying as you see from the PDF onto the first floor. So I'm going to go all the way to model space, and we can see my model space. I got the floor plans that I'm really going to work on over here, elevations and sections, and these are just guides over here. So I'm going to zoom into my first floor, which is way down here. I'm going to change my layer to annotate dimension, and I'm going to go to the annotation tab to get to my dimensions. And I'm going to go ahead and start just dimensioning from the top and doing the overall. So I like to use that dimension button, and the overall is going to be from this side to over here. And I'm going to pull straight up, and it's going to automatically fill in the dimension. I'm going to give myself some space. If I need to adjust this later, it's perfectly fine. I'm going to set it to about here. Okay, and then I'm going to do the next string of dimensions. So I'm going to go and start dimension again. I could hit return or whatever. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can see the corner, and I'm going to click up here. And I'm going to pull up so it's close to that line, but I give a little bit of space. Now, to continue the dimension, I could hit the same button, or I can actually hit this button here, and it's going to continue that same dimension. So for this next string, I want to come all the way across to here, and then I'm going to again go all the way across to there. And when I reach the end, I can hit enter or escape to end that dimension line, and then I can do the next level down. So I'm going to take this guy here. I'm going to go from here to the center point of the window or the sill and pull it up just to give myself enough space, and then continue this dimension with this button to the next center point of the sill, and then all the way to the end of the line, and press escape to end. And hopefully if you look at the dimensions, you should be getting numbers exactly matched on the PDF. Otherwise, if not, there's a mistake somewhere and you need to go and correct that mistake. The other thing to note, so the first tip I want you to know about is that these dimensions should be evenly spaced like this. A lot of sides, well, two sides usually have 3 levels, which is the top and left, and then the other sides have 2. That's the overall, then it's sort of the big pieces of the architecture, then it's the little things like doors and windows, and that's the 3 levels here. The overalls don't need to be done on the opposite side because you don't only want to write it once. You don't want to accidentally make a mistake and do it on both sides and change one. So we always just try to put the information on there once. The overall can be on the top, it can be on the left, and so you're good to go. Now you want to have nice spacing. This spacing is a little good. I could argue it's a little tight to the building, so if you're like me and you want to move it up or move it down, just click on the dimension. You can move it up a little bit. Now in this case I need to sort of move a bunch up, so I have to sort of select a bunch and sort of move those up and move that up to here. And or I could use stretch. So I could use S for stretch, and to do this last level I can just stretch it all just like that and move them all straight up. And maybe that feels a little more comfortable, right? There's no right or wrong answer, but I want to show that. So that's sort of the first tip. The second tip I want to say is make sure you always have little spaces between your dimension line and your drawing, because that's a symbol to say, hey, this is a not piece of architecture, this is a symbol. And it can happen easily that you don't. So I purposely drew this 3-4. I'm gonna erase this 3'4" just to show you what a lot of students do when they come to dimension that. They'll hit the dimension line and they'll say, oh, I'm dimensioning this wall, and I'll go here to here, and they'll click down here, and then they'll pull up. You see when I do that, there is that red line space, but it's here. When you print out, you won't see that. There's, sure, in the colored view it's blue and then red, but when it prints out on black and white. It's going to be black to black. It'll look like a solid line. You need the space there. And so again, I'll erase this. This is a bad one. And you need to do that. It's this line, and then you have to click the upper line of that to get that space in that way. And so you can see that space does exist right there as needed. The third tip I'll give on dimensions is that make sure your strings are even. So if I draw like this, if I drew like this, if I accidentally say snap to the top of that little doodad thing there like that, that's not right. I want this line to be even with that line. So if you didn't draw them in line, you can just select on it, click on the blue dot, and re-snap it to where it should be. So I want to see all straight lines across as you're going on every single dimension. So that's a tip there, and you can copy a lot of dimensions around. One of the ones I want to show you is what you do over here on this window, because if you look at this thing, it says equal and it says equal. It doesn't give a number. So how do you do that? Now you can go and fill in the rest of the dimensions to that point, but I'm just going to jump ahead to show you that trick here. So I'm going to hit dimension, and I'm going to start here and go to the center point and pull out. We're going to see it's going to give us a number, and I want to continue that dimension down to this corner here. But we want it to be equal. They're the same number, but we want it to say EQ. So to do that, I'm going to just double click on this text like we're editing text, and I'm going to select it all and say cap locks on EQ period. So I'm just going to do it. It's just like text, and you can see it just changes just like text. And you can do EQ period. Oops, slash period. There we go. Now, if you want to get it back to the number, you can do that. You have to use a greater than less than sign. Look that up in a different video. I'm not going to put it there. But if you do need to go back to the number, you can let AutoCAD automatically do it through that shortcut. So should you run into that situation at some point, there you go. So that's that trick. And then internal dimensions, you just want to make sure that you draw what we show inside to wall. Try not to make the legs too long. And if you recall from the first video when we were drawing this floor plan, there's purposely dimensions that are missing. So for example, we have this run that goes this way across this plan, but this bedroom is not dimensioned. And what that means is you build from this wall and you build over and you build over, because the stairs have to be clean and have to be certain sizes, the closets have to be a certain sizes, the bathrooms have to be a certain sizes, even the kitchen oftentimes has to be a certain size. Bedrooms, they've got some flexibility there. Now, if you're at code minimum, you might not, but usually you're not. And so construction of wood frame construction is not exactly precise, so you purposely leave out one side string so that the contractor knows to build from what side, what's most important, what dimensions to hit, and which ones, if it's left over, it's left over, and it's off by 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch, you're perfectly fine by that. But a bathroom being off by 1/8 of an inch, that's not necessarily going to work. A stair being off by 1/8 of an inch, you'll be breaking code. So that's why you have to be very smart about what dimensions you do. So for example, this string, it just is going from here to here, because that 3 feet is really important. And again, just like exterior dimensions, I want to make sure they're snapped and aligned. And if I needed more space here, I could pull this down because maybe it's a little tight to the stair. So if I pull this down to give myself some room, then I also want to pull this guy down to give him room. And again, I want to keep going across. So I'm going to go from here to here, because this is the important dimension. That's 3 feet. So I'm going to snap from there to there. And then the closet internal dimension, again, that's the important one. That's going to be 2 feet. So I'm going to do the internal dimension just like this. And if it sticks out like that, that's perfectly fine. And we're good to go. All right, and so again, I'm leaving the bedroom blank because I'm building here. It doesn't matter what this is. If I built this distance and this distance, I might not have enough room for the stairs by 1/8 of an inch, and nope, no good. I'll show one other dimension here. Let's do the wall thickness. I might click on that stair and click on this stair, and we can see that it's going to automatically stick off to the left because clearly 4.5 is no room. But if you notice in the drawing, it also says TYP for typical, so I'll just show you that real quick, and I'll hit enter. I'm sort of pushing the right arrow key to get all the way to the right of that note, and then I'm just going to hit enter, and then I can type in TYP inside parentheses, just like this. And we can see in this case it went up above the line. That's not the case in our drawing, but if I click on this, I can then click on this blue dot. Actually, I guess the way this annotation style is set up, I have to click on it and right click. Actually, hold on. What I want to do is not click on the blue dot. I just want to hover over it and say move text only, and then you can see it's just going to move, and I just want to wiggle it in there. And what I might do is I might actually double click on here and give it an extra return to give it some space between there. And I'm surprised it just made the line disappear, but I can always draw, if I need to cheat a little bit, I'll just draw the line back in just like that to give you the 4.5 inches typical. So you don't need to watch me do the rest of the dimensions, especially for the first floor. You're just copying them. So let me pause the video and bring that back in. So there we go. We got all the dimensions there. Keep in note, you have this little leader line with that note there we'll be checking for as well. So go ahead and do that. And we still have a few more notes we want to put on this, but I think this is a good time to mention this. If we go back to first floor, make sure that all your dimensions are in here. If any of the dimensions fall out, either pan your drawing so it fits in or shrink your dimensions so that they all fit in. If you want to make sure that you keep the same scale. Do not change the scale. So make sure all of this thing fits. And it does. You can clearly see that it will fit if you've done it cleanly. It'll fit in there. So that's all the dimensions. Now, you want to do the second floor plan exactly the same way. Again, I'm purposely not giving you, I'm not even going to show you in YouTube the dimensions of the second floor, but use the same strategies. Do overalls, do 3 levels, do dimension to the center line of windows, purposely dimension across the inside of things, but leaving at least one room across and one room down open so that it has good dimension for constructibility, and that'll be your dimensions. Now there's a few more notes I want to add to the first floor plan and the second floor plan, and we'll show those in another video. It's just the windows and door tags, so we'll catch that in the next video.